Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Let's Play Every Day. I am Tim McNiff, and every day it is my honor to welcome influencers from Minnesota's sports, business, and entertainment communities to gather and take on the sports talker of the day. Let's Play Every Day is sponsored by Nick Gross and our great friends at Northern Lids. If you're looking for a custom patch hat, I ask you, could you do any better than that? I don't think so. Check them out. Northern Lids at northernlids.com. Our guest today, our Heather Rule. We were just having a riveting discussion about Heather's last name and the many, many things we could do for sub features for Heather Rule in this show. Heather's about to put a wrap on her season as a Minnesota Twins in-game writer. Heather also creates content for MN Hockey Mag, Redline Sports, Sports Engine, and others. Besides having one of the 10 best voices on the planet, according to People magazine, Darrell Thompson is a Hall of Famer at the University of Minnesota, a former first-round draft choice by the Green Bay Packers, and now he helps change lives for the better at a place called Boulder Options. And making his LPE debut is Tyler Forness, a.k.a. the real Forno. You didn't think we were going to get you a fake Forno, did you? I wouldn't do that to you. Tyler writes college and NFL content for NBC Sports, creates content for the Daily Norseman and for Climb the Pocket, and he's an NFL draft and pro wrestling enthusiast as well. Tyler, welcome to the show. I was going to put on there, and I may have in social media, your particular brand of pro wrestling that you're an advocate of. It's AEW, correct?
Correct. AEW is real professional wrestling, not WWE.
Okay, I just didn't want to get that one wrong, so I chickened out and didn't put it in here, but so I'm glad I did get that right. Welcome to the show. We're going to start sort of slow and ease you in. How does that sound?
Whatever works for you.
Yeah, I'm lying, because here we go. Tonight's Thursday night matchup has Trevor Lawrence, the first overall selection in this year's NFL draft, and his Jacksonville Jaguars, traveling to Cincinnati to face Joe Burrow, who just happened to be last year's first overall selection in the NFL draft, and the Cincinnati Bengals. Tyler Forness, which one of these two guys will have the better NFL career and why?
All you can do right now is prognostication. You have Joe Burrow, who only has like 10 games under his belt. He had a horrific knee injury last year, which it's a borderline miracle he's already playing. And then you have Trevor Lawrence, who has all-world talent, but has been misused his entire college career. And the first 3 games in the NFL have kind of felt the same. I thought Urban Meyer's offense would translate a little better to the NFL than it has. He runs a lot of mesh, a lot of vertical concepts. The running game was very successful at the college level. You thought you'd be able to kind of maneuver some of those concepts with a Darrell Bevel offense and really try and make that translation. It hasn't shown up quite yet. We'll see as the season moves forward how it does that. But Trevor Lawrence is way more talented than Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, in comparison, has a noodle arm. He has a capable arm, but he doesn't have a rocket. Trevor Lawrence has what us in the scouting world call a piss missile, and he can just fire any throw at any time. And he's a remarkable talent. Plus, he's phenomenal on the ground too. If I had to bet on one, it'd be Trevor Lawrence. Based on who their coaching staffs are, though, it would be hard for me right now to take Trevor Lawrence.
Just one more time. Trevor Lawrence says what kind of arm?
A piss missile.
Piss missile.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And those can be overrated. Yeah. There's been a lot of piss missiles that have gone that are just out in the boneyard like a 354 sitting out in the junkyard. So I'm kind of a little bit more of a fan of Joe Burrow's. Actually, I think he's got what it takes upstairs, and I think you look at what Tom Brady's been able to do with way above average arm. But I wouldn't call it a missile or a rocket arm. But I think there's you have the people that I just want someone to get the ball to the right person at the right time, be in the right situation, and be able to handle those situations. Throw into a blitz, not let the guy just kind of run into you and make sure you receive and understand what's going on. So I'm a little bit more of a fan of Joe Burrows, and I think it's the whole Trevor Lawrence, the whole everything is just. I just don't know. So I think it'll be really interesting to see. Obviously, it always is interesting to see. And you can also get ruined by a bad franchise. Yeah. I mean, that's that. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot going on in a long time for the Jaguars. They're a tiny bit like the Saints of the '80s, which is not a good comparison.
But wait a minute, Darrell. Let's go back a minute. You say Trevor Lawrence. You don't know What don't you know? I mean, at Clemson, the guy won a national championship, played in another one, appears to have all the attributes as far as athleticism. What causes you
Oh,
to
he's
give
in the right.
pause?
I mean, he played it. He comes surrounded by a tremendous amount of talent. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of talent on offense, on defense, all over the place. I think he's a really good quarterback. I wonder about from here up. With Burrows, I don't. I mean, he has impressed me going through his transition, his transfer, the change, what he was able to do. I mean, I just like him. I hope I'm wrong, but time will tell.
No, it's interesting. Hey, Heather, you want a piece of this?
No, I'll leave it there.
I'll say one more thing about this.
Yeah, sure.
One thing that came out yesterday, Bruce Feldman and I think her name is Grace Gaynor, the Clemson athletic beat writer, came out with a story about how poorly the Clemson offense has been mismanaged, and they actually said it's abysmal. And they went from national championships to the 10th worst offense in college football this year, and talking about how in depth they misused Trevor Lawrence. And Darrell's right. Just having a piss missile doesn't really mean a whole lot, but he's got all those other intangibles and all those other elements. He can put touch on the ball. He's not going to be a Jamarcus Russell, and I think that needs to be stated as well. But he's also with a franchise that has made abysmal first-round picks and hasn't re-signed one of them since before 2010. So it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that the knee. Every time I see Joe Burrow, he gets hit or goes down, I just cringe and wait. He obviously, like you said, it's a miracle he's back, but should he be? I'm not so sure. Heather, I know you're not going to be watching this game tonight because I know where you're going to be. You are going to be over at Target Field. Twins play their final home game of the regular season. Give us a peek behind the curtain at your job. What's the best part of your job working social media for the Twins? What do you get to do?
So I'm part of the social media team. Mostly what I do is in-game Twitter for the Twins. So, posting the lineups and, posting score updates, photos, videos, that kind of thing, just throughout the game, home and away. Away I work from home. And, one of the best parts for me is the home games, just getting to be there and working in the press box. And, the people I've met there and the friends I've made has been a lot of fun. Just the whole experience and being able to go every day and have that be your office, basically, at the ballpark. No matter how the season has gone, I always would say 2 years ago is probably the most fun I've had doing the job. Obviously, we say winning makes things better. It's a lot more fun. And the home run record that the Twins broke a couple of years ago just made the season so much fun with all of the the stats to keep up with and the records and everything was just a lot of fun to keep up with and post. And so that's that was probably the most fun. But I think just being there and just everyone I've met has made the experience really, really fun. But I think just keeping up every day with the sport too, and being able to have a hand in it and be a part of it.
Very nice. Let's stick with baseball for a minute. Both the Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Francisco Giants have won more than 100 games this season. Yet the team that does not win that division, most likely the Dodgers, will be forced to play a one-game elimination game against the St. Louis Cardinals, a team that until last night had won 17 straight. Tyler, should Major League Baseball seed their teams in the playoffs? I mean, it seems like everybody else does.
Everybody else also gives priority to division winners. There's never going to be an absolute perfect system, but as long as you're going to have divisions, you have to give the division winner something to fight for. And the guaranteed you're going to the best of 5 instead of playing the wild card, I think is a 100% fair. If you want to talk about, hey, once the wild card round is done, whoever has the best record, then you reseed from there. I can understand that. But there really is going to be no flawless system. And until somebody mentions something else, I don't think you can really change it.
Darrell, when was the last time you watched a Major League Baseball game that did not involve the Minnesota Twins? And what can baseball do to try to attract younger people to their product?
The last time I watched a baseball game that wasn't the Twins was probably the World Series. Last year, I'm a big World Series fan, like from beginning to end. I go to Twins games, I watch the Twins, and I watch highlights. But I'm not gonna watch like the Mets and the Braves, things like that. That's like a little bit anticlimactic unless I know someone that's playing or a friend's son or something like that. So, and I think to get young people, I think it's a challenge, with everything that's going on in the game. Is I wouldn't say it's slower, but it's a little bit different than basketball and soccer and lacrosse and everything else is taken on. I'm just a fan of continuing to play and having some of the young guys and the guys that are currently playing come out and spend some time in the community with kids and let them see and feel them and play catch with them, and hopefully you can inspire that next generation.
I was driving on 694 headed out of Maple Grove and east, and drove by this playing field that I've looked at, from the road for years, noticing that the two baseball diamonds where I never actually saw, no matter what time of day or night I was driving past, ever saw a kid on, that they have been eliminated and they're redoing the whole thing. And I can only imagine what's coming. My guess is soccer fields. Heather, I don't mean to beat up your sport, but considering the dumpster fire of a season the Twins have had, I've actually been impressed with how many fans they've drawn the last month. In your opinion, when it comes to fan engagement, and I might get you in trouble with Dave St. Peter here, but here it comes anyway, considering fan engagement, what do the Twins do right, and what other things could they maybe do better?
Well, one of the things that popped into my head was because we just had it recently with the Hall of Fame ceremony for Justin Morneau, which, that's something they only do, maybe once or twice a year. They had a ceremony for the reunion of the 1991 World Series as well, pregame ceremony. But those are always very well done. And they, try to start them just before, first pitch would be scheduled. And so, hopefully fans would be there and be in their seats. But those are always, well attended to by the former players, the, players in the Twins Hall of Fame that come back for those. And just, the way they're put together and the speeches and presentations and everything like that, I think is very, fun and makes it fun for people to come to the ballpark. They had a really good crowd for the Morneau ceremony recently. But as far as the everyday stuff, I know they have made a lot of improvements or changes to the ballpark the past few years, which for me, as someone who would be going if I were going as a fan, I'm going to watch the game, but I know it's become so much more an experience for people and families too, and they can be long games, so there's different areas. There's little playground areas for kids, or they have this in right field. The plaza area is, they have some chairs and tables, and I think even some yard games. So things like that I think they've tried to make it really more of an experience for people coming to the ballpark. So there's that piece of it that I think has changed. I honestly, I wasn't sure for the, what could they do better part.
Yeah, let's leave that one alone.
Yeah.
Let's leave that one
I didn't
alone.
have anything pop into my head for that one. So
they're great, Dave
No.
St. Peter. Heather's a happy employee. Yesterday, Dalvin Cook said about his quarterback, Kirk Cousins, and I quote, "From a clean pocket, he's the best in the game, man. The best. He's just turning the ball loose and being him, man, but you're starting to see that leadership side." Tyler, is Dalvin just building up a teammate? Because when he said it, it really sounded sincere.
It's always a good sign when a player is willing to lie for a teammate. Like Kirk Cousins has been playing absolutely phenomenal football, but you can't sit there and tell me he's better in the pocket than Tom Brady. He's better in the pocket than Patrick Mahomes. He's just not, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you have a guy who's playing like a top 10 quarterback, like you're in a good situation. Kirk Cousins is playing lights out football, but he's nowhere near the best. The fact that Dalvin's willing to say that about his teammate speaks volumes about the relationship, the camaraderie in the locker room, and it just speaks volumes about the character of who the man has become over the course of the last few years. Because last year, the year before that, nobody's lying for Kirk Cousins that way. A switch flipped in him somehow, and I'll give him all the credit.
Okay, the Browns come in with the NFL's second best ground attack statistically, with a tandem in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt that is second to none. The real force is that offensive line. Darrell, as a guy who appreciates offensive linemen, and for good reason, there's a lot of high draft picks from years when the Browns were really bad playing in the Cleveland O-line. What can you tell us about the Browns' ground game?
That it's working, and there's a benefit to drafting offensive linemen. We saw it with the Dallas Cowboys a few years ago when, Ezekiel Elliott came into the league and he was tearing things up, and now they've had injuries and they've lost a few guys and they're starting to struggle. And we're seeing it currently with, I think with the Vikings. I mean, we're talking about, they're, not lying. Well, they are lying a little bit. I don't think that Cousins is the best quarterback in the NFL, but he's a good quarterback. But you look a lot better when you have a clean pocket. When you're able to throw the ball, go to your first receiver, your second receiver, and then throw down your check down, then you look very, very bright, So, having a clean pocket makes a big difference, and also having a great offensive line makes a humongous difference.
Last Sunday was the first time in 9 home games that Justin Jefferson played in front of a home crowd. This game on Sunday is not going to be easy. Heather, the Vikings have their hands full. How big a factor does that home crowd have to be if the Vikings are going to beat the Browns?
I think it's huge, especially right from the start. And everything I saw from last Sunday's game, I had mentioned earlier, I kind of follow along on Twitter when I'm working the Twins game, and you see everything that people are saying from the fans to reporters that I follow who are there. People were talking about how loud it was. And, some people were saying it's, the loudest I've ever heard it in here. Obviously it'd been a couple of years since it'd been a full building, but I think it's important to have that and to have the crowd behind you from the start to try and get some momentum going for sure. And then to try and keep that going throughout the game, even if things get tough a little bit too, if they get down. I know defensively, third down, they always, I think in stadium, you can always hear on TV too, they play some kind of a sound effect for third down and try and get the crowd, pumped up and behind them. But even just keeping up the crowd noise, even on first and second down, to try and get to third down and put pressure on the defense too. But, I think for players too, it's got to be so helpful to have the crowd behind you and just to kind of give you that, give you that confidence or whatever. It's, know that you're playing in front of all these fans again, which is something that, nobody had last year. And so I think it's a real, advantage. And if the crowd can kind of stay behind Minnesota, I think that's going to be a good thing. They can, use all the help they can get on Sunday to try and get another win and piggyback on the good performance they had last week.
For whatever reason, I thought that I was the only one who thought that Tanner Morgan had been steadily regressing over the past 2 seasons. Now it seems to be open field on the Gophers quarterback. Morgan has vowed to play better. Darrell, can Tanner Morgan be fixed? And do the Gophers have a viable option at backup if Morgan falters again on Saturday at Purdue?
I think we have a viable option in Zach Annexstad. He was until he got hurt, he basically lost his job because he got hurt. I mean, we'll never probably totally admit that, and Tanner played well, in his stead. And I think last year, the COVID and the Samford coming in and not being able to meet with him in person and have the connection was really, really challenging. And is he fixable? Yeah, I think probably 75 or 80% of his confidence, because right now I think he's thinking and kind of start seeing ghost out there. And I think there's a little bit of that going on. But if not, then maybe you pull the trigger like the Purdue coach did last week, and he put his backup quarterback in, and they came back and they won the game, with the touchdown at the end of the game. So I don't know if that's PJ Fleck has that in him, but it potentially could be that time. We'll have to wait and see.
The NFL has scheduled Tom Brady's return to New England for this Sunday night in prime time, and that is no coincidence either. Tyler, Brady wins another Super Bowl in his first year after leaving the Pats, while Bill Belichick and the Patriots failed to make the playoffs entirely. This breakup has only enhanced Tom Brady's stature as the best ever. Has it diminished Bill Belichick's reputation to an equal degree, or maybe even more so?
I wouldn't say it's diminished his reputation, but I will say that the breakup, Tom Brady won, because he went out and proved that it wasn't just Bill Belichick and that utilizing all that scheme. It was Tom Brady being Tom Brady. And I think he needed that for himself and his legacy. But I also think that Bill Belichick is probably the best coach that we've ever seen in the National Football League. There's no mistake that Bill Belichick, as a head coach and assistant, has 8 Super Bowl rings, 6 of them with the New England Patriots. It's always tough to have something like that happen, like when Favre broke up from the Packers years ago, Joe Montana with the 49ers. You want to see these guys play their entire career with one team. You don't want to see them necessarily part ways. But I will say that Tom Brady is the greatest football player I've ever seen play, and he's continuing to prove that remarkably at the age of 43, where you see guys like Drew Brees and Peyton Manning, their arms fall off. We're seeing it live with Ben Roethlisberger right now. They just don't have the juice. That avocado ice cream that Tom Brady eats every day is working. And he's able to push the ball down the field to some great weapons. They built something really special in Tampa Bay. And it's going to be really interesting to see how Bill Belichick comes at Tom Brady, because they spent a lot of time together over the course of about 20 years. And Brady knows what Bill Belichick likes to do, likes to run, and vice versa. So at the end of the day, it's going to be a really fun chess match between Tom and Bill.
Darrell, you want to touch that one?
Yeah, I think there's almost, I mean, I agree with everything that Tyler's saying. I think Tom Brady is probably the greatest quarterback forever. And Belichick is a tremendous coach. And I don't think it's going to be very much of a challenge this weekend for Brady against the Pats. I just feel like they are overmatched compared to what they have right now. So it's going to be the challenge. I just don't feel like it's going to be there this weekend. So I just think it's going to be an easy game for the Buccaneers.
Heather, if you see it on Twitter, it has to be true, right? But in this case, I saw on Tyler's Twitter feed, and Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, but that Tom Brady has thrown for more touchdown passes in his 40s than he did in his 20s. Is that accurate? He's nodding his head.
Yep.
Of course, that runs contrary to everything we know about the aging process. The old saying, Father Time is undefeated. Not in this case, at least not yet. Heather, love him or hate him, do you feel like you almost have to watch Tom Brady at this point because at some point he will be gone, or at least I think at some point he will?
Yeah, I think that's what's so intriguing to me about him. Tyler talked about these other quarterbacks that their arms, start to fall off, and that's always the assumption with everybody, right? Look at how old he is. He's playing at an age now where it's, not many guys are playing at that age, and there's a reason for that, because at some point your game just falls off. You're not the same player as you were, and everyone understands that because that's just how it works. You get older, and for him, it's almost been the opposite in a way. So I think that's what's so interesting to watch about him. And I remember, whenever his last Super Bowl win with the Pats, I thought, okay, retire now, going on top, and I heard, okay, he's going to go to Tampa Bay. Well, all right. I figured that could be the year then that maybe things start to fall off. And then, you kind of see that because you don't want it to get to a point either where some guys, they can't walk away and they kind of run it into the ground. And, no one likes to see that either. But, for him, it's just, he's almost a freak of nature. But you never know how long he's going to keep going either. The comparison that I think of, not an apples to apples necessarily, but watching Winnie Brown play hockey for the Minnesota Whitecaps, and she's 43 years old and is going to, play again this year. And she, doesn't show any signs of walking away either, and is still good at what she does. So I think there's people like that in their sport, like Winnie and Tom Brady. It's like, you have to keep watching because you never know when it's going to be their last game or their last season. But at the same time, just really appreciating what they're doing. And you kind of look at them and think, man, could they go another 5 or 10 years? I mean, that's probably not realistic, but just, taking advantage and enjoying what they're able to do out there, because it really is impressive and, like something you haven't seen before.
Heather, I wrote a piece last. I'm sorry, Darrell.
Big mistake for the Patriots to let Tom Brady go. If we talk about the article you sent out, I mean, I think it was his commitment to himself physically and his diet. Tyler talked about. I mean, it's his diet and his commitment to himself physically is 100%. He doesn't. It's a beer. It doesn't eat bread. All those jokes about him. They're true. So this guy's commitment to himself and to his team is phenomenal. So, I mean, that piece to me, like I would just ride him right. So, you know what, when he actually can't throw, and then I'm going to put someone else out there. Patriots didn't have anybody like waiting in the wings. Like at least the Packers kind of, well, they had Rodgers in the wings.
He'd earned it too, Darrell. He'd earned it.
No, absolutely.
Well, they tried for years to draft that guy. And you can see it in the middle rounds. Garoppolo, Jacoby Brissett, Ryan Mallett. Like, it's not like they didn't try to draft his successor. They continued to try, and Tom Brady continued to say, no, I'm still the guy.
They're all over the league. They're all over the league. Yeah.
Stuff funny. Yeah. Getting back to Heather, I wrote a piece last year at Super Bowl time and said, what's it like to be Tom Brady? Ask her. And I wrote a piece about Winnie Brown. And she pointed out that her mother is in her 70s and is still playing hockey. So Winnie Brown may still be playing professionally in her 70s. So as long as Tom Brady's going, go Winnie Brown. All right, we're going to leave the conversation there right now. Tyler Forness, how did it go? Will you come back?
I think so. Yeah, you guys were pretty nice. I can talk sports.
Tyler, where do people find your work?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at @TheRealForno, as you said earlier. I do write college football for NBC Sports. I'll have an article posted later today about Notre Dame's big matchup with Cincinnati, where we have a free predictor contest. You answer 7 questions correctly, you can win $10,000. I also talk against the spread, over under, and big key points, including how the Irish are going to stop Desmond Ridder.
Cincinnati's for real. Yeah, it is a big game. You're not kidding when you say that. Mm-hmm. DT, do you have a big dinner tonight?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we're getting ready for. So, yeah, we got that tonight about 5 o'clock. So, yeah, we're gearing up.
Have a great night. I hope that is everything that you want it to be. Continue the great work at Boulder Options, which benefits everyone in this community. And thank you for everything that you do for the youth of the community. Heather, I know where you're going to be tonight, and you get to see Joe Ryan. So if you see him, if you get a chance to touch the hair, just do it, and at least just once for me. Okay. If you get in trouble, just go, it's for this weird guy I work with on this show I do. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah.
All right. Thank you all. While it's easy to look at this Twins season as a lost cause, I ask you for a moment to consider the case of Twins reliever Caleb Thielbar. The 34-year-old Thielbar, a native of Northfield, was drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers in the 18th round in 2009. He was then released by the Brewers in 2011. He signed with the St. Paul Saints in 2011, signed with the Twins also in 2011, and made his major league debut with the Twins in 2013. Thielbar appeared in 54 games with the Twins in 2014, but he was released by the team after appearing in just 6 games in 2015. Thielbar was claimed by the Padres in 2015, released by the Padres in 2015, and signed by the Saints. He signed a minor league deal with Miami in November of 2016, only to be released by Miami in March of 2017. Thielbar signed with the Saints again in May of 2017. He signed a minor league deal with Detroit in 2018, was traded to Atlanta in 2019, where he was allowed to become a free agent, who then signs with, no, not the Saints, the Minnesota Twins, again in November of 2019. And on August 3rd of 2020, more than 11 years after he was drafted and more than 4 years since the last time he threw a pitch at the major league level, Caleb Thielbar was back on the mound in the big leagues. And you know what? He was brilliant. In a season this year of injuries and systematic underachievement, Caleb Thielbar has been a bright light. Heading into last night's game, the Twins were a miserable 70-87 on the season. Thielbar, a reclamation project at the age of 34, who's out of Major League Baseball for more than 4 years, has 7 wins on the season. Now, I'm a graduate of White Bear Mariner High School, and that really math wasn't our thing, but I'm pretty sure that Thielbar's 7 wins make up 1/10 of the Twins' win total for the season, and he's not even a starter. He's a middle reliever. Think about all the bus rides, all the bad meals, the low pay, the countless teammates. Think about the unshakable belief in yourself that allowed Caleb Thielbar to hang in there over all these years. Think about his wife supporting his dream, and it looked like pure folly. Thanks to Caleb Thielbar, this Twin season has not been a total waste. Now, this roster is headed for a major makeover in the offseason. And I don't know who will stay and who will go, but I do know one thing. Caleb Thielbar better damn well be on this Twins ball club next year. I do know that. I want to thank our panelists for the day. A big thanks to Nick Gross and Northern Lids for their continued support. This is Let's Play Every Day, a part of the LPSN or Let's Play Sports Network. Thank you for watching or perhaps listening. If you're downloading us, we do appreciate it. And we do hope to see you right back here tomorrow.